Imagine living in a neighborhood your family has called home for generations, only to find rising rents and housing costs pushing you out. How does Here to Stay Community Land Trust empower families to stay rooted in rapidly gentrifying communities while building generational wealth? Today, we're diving into this important topic in this episode of Move Ahead with Dalia. Take a listen. Hello, my friends. Today, my guest is Lucy Gomez-Feliciano, Community Engagement Director of Here to Stay Community Land Trust. Hi, Lucy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course. Let's start with your love letter to Humboldt Park.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to share.
Of course.
Something I recently wrote with a lot of heart. So this is my love letter to Humboldt Park, the neighborhood I grew up and I have strong connections to.
Nice.
And it goes like this. Humboldt Park, my home. Humboldt Park, a park. Humboldt Park, a neighborhood. Humboldt Park, a place filled with love, a place that was feared. Grade school was 7 blocks away. I lived the furthest. On my way, I would stop by for a friend, and we would stop for another and another. When the school bell rang at the end of the day, I filled my little hands with nickels, dimes, and sometimes a quarter. On my way home, I saw the pharmacy. It was always filled with screaming children, screaming for candy. I often skipped the pharmacy, went to the mom and pop store. There, I would exchange my sweaty coins for a small paper bag with loose candy. Childhood summers were magical. After breakfast, I was off knocking on doors, asking if friends could come out to play. After many hours of laughter, scrapes, and adventures, we would hear the chirp of the nighthawk. We could not see the bird in the sky, but we knew it was time to call it a day. It was on a hand-me-down bike with a cool banana seat that I learned to ride a bike. I rode it in front of my house from hydrant to hydrant, a short but satisfying distance. It was in the dark hallway of a big apartment building next door that a 13-year-old boy caught me by surprise. He kissed me, kissed my 10 or 11-year-old lips. I was giddy for days. I was introduced to drugs, but I didn't like them. What I did like was my sister's camera, a camera I used to focus on the people around me. I was never afraid to ask strangers if I could take their photo. I got my courage from watching my father. I watched him from the front seat of his taxi. At a community center, I, along with other young people, learned to take the film out of the camera and develop it and make prints. My photos hung on the walls of a community gallery, a place where I grew pride for the beautiful and complex people of Humboldt Park. And I began to notice how unjust the world was. Drugs and gangs and violence robbed many young people in Humboldt Park from joy. My parents provided shelter while sheltering. I heard things. I was sad that only half my high school classmates graduated. Over the last 20 years, Humboldt Park has been changing. It feels less and less like home. The cost of housing has gone off the roof. Families that have called Humboldt Park home for 40, 50 years are feeling the push. Some pushed out, much like Puerto Ricans were pushed out of Lincoln Park and Lakeview. Home is bigger than a house. It's a place, like Humboldt Park, like a heart pumping love.
I felt like I was in that story.
We were all there.
We were all there. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's begin by having you tell me about the vision and the mission of Here to Stay Community Land Trust.
So the Community Land Trust is a model. There are over 600 community land trusts around the world. And so often people think about land trust, they think of conservation. They think about preserving a prairie or a woodland or a wetland. But when you put community in front of trust, land trust, we're really talking about people. We're talking about, and most commonly, it's home ownership, right? It's and for here to stay, community land trust, we're really focused on the families who have historically lived in the Humboldt Park, Avondale, Hermosa, and Logan Square area, right? We're thinking about an area that's being aggressively gentrifying, where people are being pushed out. So in 2018, 4 organizations came together to say, what are we going to do to create affordable homeownership? And so those 4 organizations are Lucha, Spanish Coalition for Housing, Palenque LSNA, formerly the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, and the Center for Changing Lives. And so these 4 organizations, I say, had a baby, and that baby is called Here to Stay.
Okay, well, that was one of my questions is how did it come to fruition? And so these 4 nonprofit organizations came together and put Here to Stay in that area. And you said what neighborhoods?
Humboldt Park, Logan Square, Avondale, and Hermosa.
Okay, fantastic. So can you explain how the community land trust model works for someone who wants to buy a home involved in that?
Sure. So you have to income qualify, right? We're really creating access to families who otherwise wouldn't have access to home ownership. So we use an area medium income. So there's a table that gets released every year by the government for our area. And so we go up to 120% of the area medium income. So example, family of 4 right now, that's up to $134,000 for family income.
Okay.
So anyone who's 18 or over in the house, we count their income, regardless of whether they'll be on the mortgage or not. So once you income qualify, you go through a process to be a qualified buyer. You have to take a first-time homeowner classes offered by our partners, among other HUD-certified agencies. You have to get pre-approved by one of our bank partners. We work with Huntington, Wintrust, and Old National. Those are the 3 banks that are our partners. So once you go through the process, then we start to offer the opportunity to look at a house. We don't, when we have houses varies. We may have 2 houses now, 5 houses next year. And also we match family sizes to bedrooms. So it's a little bit of a puzzle.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So it's specific to families, so 2 or more people in a household, right?
A family, if we have a small house, or we're planning to build 6 condos in a year and a half, it could be households of 1. Oh. We do recognize that there are individuals who are looking to become homeowners in our community. And for example, by doing our condos, those would be significantly more affordable.
Okay, fantastic. So can you share a success story of a family that has gone through this program, and how did it end up?
Yeah, no, I think we have 6 current homeowners. We have currently 4 under contract.
Wow.
And so each family is a beautiful story, right? Yeah. Most of our homeowners are second generations. They grew up in the neighborhood. Their parents probably still own in the neighborhood. They have their social network in the community. And they want to stay next to their social network, because a home is not just a home. A home is part of an ecosystem of family and friends that support each other, right? That pick up each other's kids, that take care of those kids, play together. So for most of our families, they're second generation. And so they are thrilled to be close to their family and friends. One family came to an info session 2 years ago, and they weren't ready financially with credit score, and maybe putting some money away for a down payment. But they were determined. They were determined to get a house for their family. And it was just this past April that they did buy their house in Hermosa. And as the person who actually helps promote the program, to screen our home buyers, and to actually give them the key, it's really rewarding. It's really satisfying work to help people's dreams come true.
Yes, yes, I agree. As a realtor, I agree, but also doing something in terms of keeping families in the community. You're going above and beyond for community members. So that's wonderful. So can you explain a little bit more about the model? So the community land trust means that the homeowner, when they purchase the home, they own the home, but they're leasing the land, correct?
Correct.
Okay, how does that work?
So there is a ground lease that homeowners buy. And that ground lease is for 99 years. And 99 years because legally no one can provide a lease longer than that. And so there is a monthly fee associated with the ground lease. When the ground lease is recorded with the title of the house with the county, and it lists things like our partnership, our agreement of how, as a community land trust, what we're responsible for and what they're responsible for. And one of the key factors is because we take this house out of the market. If that family decides to sell, there's a resale formula, and their equity is theirs. They get a traditional loan through the bank, whatever they put down for down payment, whatever they pay towards principal, whatever they were able to get through a down payment assistance, if the program allows, is theirs at the point of sale. And then we do give a 20% appreciation at the sale. So that house is when they sell, that house will be affordable for the next family. And that family starts a new lease. So that's when we say a renewable lease, because every time a new owner comes in place, that 99 years kicks in again.
Okay.
And if that family decides to let their children inherit the house, that is totally acceptable. And that at that point, the lease gets renewed for another 99 years. So this family can stay in this house for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations, right? And we're really creating stability in a market that's unstable.
Yes, yes. And I heard you mention down payment assistance. So there are those that if they qualify and the lender offers it, they can get some help with the down payment.
Yeah. Depending on your family income, depending on programs that might be available through the city of Chicago. So down payment is really essential for some families to be able to qualify for home ownership. It can really make or break a deal.
Okay. And so how does the organization Here to Stay, how do they secure funding and support for the work?
We have no secure, steady stream of income. Basically, we get grants. We were fortunate enough early on to get some small grants from local foundations. And that money helped buy our first 4 houses. And late last year, we were awarded a $5 million grant that was ARPA money, stimulus dollars that came through the state, with a lot of advocacy from community organizations, parents, legislators that fought for that money for this organization. With that $5 million, we bought 12 properties this summer. And so what will happen is, because it was a grant, we don't have to pay it back. So whatever we sell those houses for, we'll recycle that money and buy more houses.
Right.
And, we often invest on average an additional $50,000 in a house if it needs a new roof or needs a new furnace, upgrade the electrical. So buying a house in Hermosa right now averages about 380, 400,000. And then we invest another average of 50. And then our developer fee, even though we're nonprofit, we do have staff
Yeah.
that is salaried, and on average, we're really subsidizing houses by about $250,000 each, a one-time subsidy.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I know, of course, prices have gone up, home values, and unfortunately taxes, which is one of the issues where families, they want a steady monthly mortgage payment, but the taxes keep going up, and that really impacts what they can afford. As a realtor, I get a lot of calls from clients asking me why their, monthly mortgage went up from, a certain amount. It went up $300 a month or $600 a month, and then, they have to figure out what to do from there. So the homeowner for the Here to Stay homes, their taxes, are they somewhat reasonable? How does that work?
So because they don't own the land and because the property is not market rate,
Right.
we've taken that property out of the market permanently. That means that the homeowner is only paying property taxes on the amount that they paid. So on average, our family houses are sold at $275,000. So it doesn't freeze their taxes; it stabilizes their taxes because the Cook County assessor has a formula they use, right? And so that formula might shift a little bit, but in essence, our families are paying less taxes than if they owned in the market rate.
Okay. So I know I checked your website. It had some information about, how people can support the organization. What are some of the ways that in the past people have supported Here to Stay?
Yeah, we've been fortunate. We've had two women, community activists, who are still alive and active, Sally and Ann. They've donated their homes in Logan Square, combined about $1.5 million worth of property that they donated because they believe in affordable home ownership. And we know that most people are not in the position to donate their homes. But if they do want to donate their homes, we will take and accept a donation in our area or outside our area. And if the other option is potentially if folks are going to sell their home, that maybe they want to donate a percentage of their sale, given that they benefited from the inflated market. Maybe they give us 1% of their sale. And that really, combined with all our other funding sources, can really make a difference for a lot of families. And so that is something we're really hopeful. We know that sometimes people have to pay capital gains.
Right.
And so instead of paying capital gains, which is a tax, maybe make that donation to a nonprofit, and you have 5 years to write off that donation on your annual taxes. The same thing with the property taxes. You have property donation. You have 5 years to write off the donation. So I think it's a win-win, right? You get to write something off on your taxes, and you get to help families who otherwise wouldn't be able to live in this neighborhood.
Yes, yes. And as a realtor, we've talked about this in the past. It's an amazing way to present to homeowners, another way to help the community, right, as you mentioned. So presenting something important to a home seller that they would not even know about,
Sure.
unless they're presented with it. So, yeah, this is a really important part of the fundraising and support for Here to Stay. And I know that you mentioned there are sessions that you offer to explain this process. What are these sessions?
So it is a requirement to be considered a homeowner to sit through an info session. It's basically a PowerPoint presentation that I do, orientating what is a community land trust, what's the difference between buying a house in our program versus on the market. So it's the basic, what the model is, and that this is a partnership. And our model is really not just about give you your keys and walk away. If families are struggling to pay the mortgage, we will connect them to foreclosure counseling to prevent that house from going to foreclosure, from that family being displaced. That's the last thing we want. And historically, statistically in this country, foreclosure rate among community land trust homes is really low. And that is because there is a lot of support. And so we really go through the model, answer questions. We offer them once a month in Spanish and in English.
Okay.
And so people can find the date and the time on our website.
Okay, fantastic. So on the website, you have all the information to go to the session or sign up for the session, information on supporting Here to Stay, information about the board members and the staff that are involved in running this amazing organization. And I know the participants also have to do the homebuyer workshop, which you mentioned can be done through Changing
Center for Changing
Center
Lives.
for Changing Lives,
Lucha.
Lucha, and Spanish Coalition, right? What else would the potential home buyer need to do? I know, obviously, prepare for their loan, right?
Yeah. This is a traditional loan. So making sure that you're paying your bills on time, making sure you're not exceeding your debt to income ratio. Banks are going to see like how much do you owe in relationship to how much you earn, right? Because they want to make sure that you can afford this house. And so I recommend that people who are considering buying a house don't take that big vacation right now. Don't buy that car if you don't have to. Don't buy that new furniture if you don't have to. Pay off credit cards. Put some money away because you will need it as a down payment. And, just consult with a financial counselor. Center for Changing Life offers free counseling for families who qualify. So, it may take a year, it may take 2 years to get ready for home ownership. I remember when I bought my house, I saved for 2 years. And I shopped around and I bought a fixer-upper because that's all I could afford.
Yeah.
28 years later.
Me too.
For, maybe it's not going to be, that shiny new house, but it's going to be yours.
Yes. Yeah, and I participate in the homebuyer workshops through Lucha, Northwest Side Housing, and I know the impact that those counseling workshops have, and after the workshop, the counseling meetings that the workshops have on educating every person that attends the event. So I always recommend it to anyone that tells me they want to buy a home. The first thing is go to home buyer workshops.
And
right?
they're free.
And they're free. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Is there anything that we have not mentioned that you can think of you'd like to add to our podcast?
No, I encourage anyone to come to our info sessions, whether you're interested in buying, you're interested in donating, and you're curious about this Maybe not for you, but maybe for your niece, maybe for your son, maybe for a good friend that is dreaming about buying a home. I just encourage people to come learn. Nothing is lost by learning. And it really helps us as a new young organization. We're the only active community land trust in the city of Chicago. There are other communities in the process of building and starting their community land trust, such as in Inglewood and in Austin, and others. And so this is a real way to create home ownership for people who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to.
That's right. That's right. And the goal is to own a home.
That's right.
Right? Own a home and have a stable family life in that home and in the community. What is the website?
It's here to stay CLT.org. So here to stay CLT altogether.org.
.org. Okay, fantastic. Well, I think we got a lot of the information that we wanted to. I have one more question for you as a longtime Chicagoan. What do you love about living in Chicago?
People in Chicago are amazing. Growing up in Humboldt Park, growing as a homeowner in Logan Square now for 28 years, which is a neighboring community to Humboldt Park. People have a lot of neighborhood pride, because you build connections. You build connections with your neighbor. You build connections with the business owners, and you feel like you're part of something bigger. And I always say that Chicago's a big city, but it's a small town. Like, if you're out and about engaging with people, you find that your circles are connected. People know, oh yeah, I know that person too.
That's so true.
Like if you talk to people long enough, you're going to find a common thread.
Yeah, that's so true.
Whether it's school, whether it's work, or whether it's just going to the same grocery store for 20 years and you build a relationship with that teller, or you go to that restaurant and, the regulars go on Sunday morning after church. Yeah. It's like, it's like, you feel like your family.
Yeah. Well, coincidentally, when we met personally, we found out we went to the same high school.
Yeah, we went to Roberto Clemente High School.
Yes, and we were just a year apart. So there you go. We're all connected somehow, especially in our communities. I'm in Avondale, you're in Logan Square, and we've been in those communities forever, it feels like. So, well, thank you, Lucy, for everything you're doing in our communities. I want to thank the staff of Here to Stay and the board members for everything that they've done as well. And thank you for coming on the podcast to share the important work of Here to Stay.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your continuous advocacy and your volunteer work. It makes a difference because it really does take a village.
Yes, absolutely. I use that a lot too. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much for listening today. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe so you can keep up with my latest episodes. You can find me on all social media platforms at Dalia the Realtor. To reach me directly, call me at 773-879-4855. I'll see you on the next episode. Make it a great day.